Creative Katie, Karen Burchill here. Welcome to my version of the Index Card a Day 2019 Challenge, my Create Daily series. The technique that I'm using here is using the focal image to determine the color scheme. So I found these lovely clocks in a magazine, and I love the colors and kind of the weathered wood look. And so I'm taking inspiration for that, and I'm pulling out pink, gold, orange, yellows and whites, as well as brown, as close as I can to this. And I'm going to be mixing these paints together both on the glass mat, media mat, and right on to the page. And what I'm working on for the ICAD challenge is my mini planner. I have repurposed this as my old one from last year, and I've gessoed the pages. Some of them have gel prints. So I'm just mixing the paints up and applying them and just getting just a variation of color. And I keep pulling in that focal image just to see if I'm got the right colors and tones. And I find by adding that little bit of white in there, that really helps make this very soft and colorful. So if you want to see the ICADs, there is a playlist for the ICADs. There's also the playlist for my quote journal, which in a lot of cases I'm using the Index Card a Day challenge as a spin-off. And really for me, it's about creating every day. Now that doesn't mean that I'm creating a new page every day. Some of the days I'm collecting and I'm working on the sentiments. And some days I'm looking for magazines and I'm sourcing out the things that I might be using and creating the videos. So I probably am going to end up with about 30 index cards. Now this is a Crafter's Workshop stencil and it's called Sunflower Mandala, and I'm stenciling with just white paint here. And this is something that I've added to what I have, that I find if I add white, even at the initial layer, it really adds a lot to the page. This is called Tile Mania, very quickly becoming a staple. It just looks good in any kind of application. And I'm going in with kind of an orangey pink tone here. I just want to build some interest and pattern into that background. For me, a background, if it's just one color or even just a mixture of colors, it's flat. It needs to have either physical or visual texture. This is the Harlequin stencil. It is, one of the original Crafters Workshop stencils. And it just, some of the favorites don't stop. They can always be used and combined with other ones. And I'm just trying to clean off the paint that gets on the other side inevitably. I'm a messy crafter. I own it. So I'm loving the background and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to put the clock here and a clock there. And then, you have to have this little dance of auditioning the pieces. Which way are they going? And sometimes when you cut things out of a magazine, you're kind of limited by how much of it is there. And then I thought, I'm going to play up the circles that I see in the clocks. And so I'm just have some circles that were on my desk and I'm just flipping them out, and I'm thinking I might do, and I do end up doing, a bit of shading around these circles. And it just adds that little bit, but I don't want to lose all that interesting background. And I'm just adding a little bit more pattern, a little more details in certain places, because I want, when I trace over the circles and shade, I want to capture that. So I'm tracing these circles with my white Stabilo all pencil. What I should have done is use my brown Stabilo, which I do have and I do end up using later on. I'm not often shading on these colors, and so this was a bit of a learning curve here. And I'm using the pink color, the quinacridone magenta color, and I'm mixing in a little bit of black with it. And of course that gets too dark. So I wasn't quite happy with it. But you know, when it doesn't go exactly the way you plan, just keep going. So I want these circles to kind of pop, but I decided that I wasn't going to do full-on negative painting where I paint out everything else white or a color. I wanted to keep that patterning there. And then I just remember, oh, I could use brown. So I grab the brown and I start using that. And the tone of the brown just looks better. So it looks like I'm being very, very fussy here, but I'm just trying to get it right. And sometimes that's the hard part because you're trying to get it right with what the picture is in your head. So I've browned and I'm keep trying these back in there and seeing what's left. And I'm not exactly happy with the overall orientation. It just strikes me as odd. So, you know, I'm kind of putzing around and thinking, what can I do? What can I do? And so I decide, you know, I'm going to do some splattering, introduce this brown throughout, and I splatter also with gold. And I just thin the paint down on the palette, you know, and I love this glass media mat because it's big enough space that I can have my project on the black part over there, and on the other part I can mix the paint and have that easily. And then, you know, I suddenly decide, you know, I'm going to reorganize this a little bit. I'm adding a couple more circles. I've turned the page to a different orientation. And you have to be willing to do that. And so back I go with the shading with the brown. And I still haven't figured out here that I have a brown Stabilo that I could have done with that and it would have been so much better. When I do the art journal pages, I don't varnish them. And so for the most part, I'm, you know, can handle if something is going to be water activated because I'm not going to varnish them. If I'm varnishing, I'm really leery to use anything that is not permanent. So I'm building up the brown. And gradually, through my trials and efforts, I do end up with something that I'm quite happy with. Now I have the brown paint there, so I grab a makeup sponge and I'm just edging it in the brown. And these makeup sponges I've used and used and used. They do eventually get to a point where they're kind of crusty and they're not quite as usable. But I just spray them with Murphy's Oil soap and dish soap detergent, and you know, it comes out clean quite easily, as long as you don't forget and just leave them sitting on your craft room table. So there's a close-up of the brown, and it's much softer in real life. I just couldn't get a great picture. So I have the sentiment about time, and I'm just edging it with the brown. And the sentiment says, don't wait. Life goes faster than you think. And I'm just gluing this down with my gel medium matte from the Crafter's Workshop. And I love how the finish it gives to this. And I think adding those extra circles underneath and really made a difference to the background that was. So here's where I figure out that I have a brown Stabilo oil pencil. And so I'm using it to trace around the clocks, and I'm just adding a little bit more here and there with it. And with the Stabilo oil pencil, you just put it where you want it, and then you can just activate it with water and a brush. So yeah, I've been asked that, people have said, do you have a stash of magazine pictures? Yes, and I've done, kind of an all call to my friends, and I've got a whole pile of them. And I typically go through the magazine several times, and I pull out things that are interesting. And sometimes it's, with these clocks, I like the color of it. I didn't have a set plan, but then, you grab it and you make a page, which is why I like doing the ICAD challenge. It just frees you up to just testing. I'm using brown paint that's in my fine line bottle. If you don't have a fine line bottle, I suggest you get one. I absolutely love these. This is gold, and I'm just going around these circles, just adding just another little bit of detail. There's gold on both of the clocks in a couple places, and so that just is tying everything together. And then I decide to double edge this, so it has the brown and now it has the gold. And the ICADs or ATCs is a perfect place to test out and try these things. If you don't like it, you're not going to do it on a bigger project or a more permanent project. But if you do like it, then it's something that you can use. I've got some close-ups coming of the background and then the finished page. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. I love to hear from you. I answer everybody's comments. And I hope that you're doing the Index Card a Day challenge, or at least getting creative on a regular basis. It's good for all of us. Bye for now.